Hey there, and welcome to episode 15 of the Power of Practice podcast. How to get more value out of life.
Welcome to the Power of Practice podcast with Matthew Tweedy. Discover how to leverage the potential of your unconscious mind so you can create an abundant and empowered existence. Here's your host, Matthew Tweedy.
Hi there, and welcome back. Thanks for joining me for this session. Now, it's a big title. Getting value out of life. Although it's not that big as far as my explanation of how to do that, I guess, few simple steps or mental games to play, life hacks, that are just going to assist you to do that. Now, why would you want to get value out of, and it's a high chunk, I know. I don't just mean out of life. I mean out of anything inside of your world. From a purchase of a new computer to the purchase of a program on your computer. Kind of like buying a new Nintendo Switch and then buying a game for that Nintendo Switch. If you're a gamer, you'd know that, you choose to get value out of something. Now, that's really, I'm jumping ahead because the what on this, what do I mean by getting value? Well, the interesting thing about value, there's so many perceptions around it. Getting my money's worth. That's a really common one that gets bandied around. And who doesn't want to get their money's worth out of any product or service that they purchase? So it's pretty clear what value is. It's a perception. It's a decision, it's a choice, and wait for it, value is a process as well. Value is a process. Now go figure, right? Because years ago, before I was in this world of thinking in a different way, some might say a little bit quirky, I would have thought that value was, something that, if I buy X or Y, like I buy this video game, by buying that, I got my value. But if I take that video game and, I go back to the era of Nintendo cartridges. Look out. And I take my Super Mario Brothers 1 or my, Duck Hunter. Wasn't that inbuilt into the system? I take my game, my cartridge, and I put it, in the cupboard. Did I get value? Well, it depends on who's asking that question. If you're a collector, you may get value, but if you're a gamer, not so much. Now, this is really important because to the extent that you understand this or choose to not allow yourself to understand it, now, it really is going to facilitate a life of ease and effortlessness versus a life of disappointment in a lot of senses in my eyes, a life of perhaps even being bitter when you don't have to do that. At least I don't think so. And if we can bring some sweetness with some relief through different ways of thinking and strategies, then rock on. So yeah, value is a process. In NLP, we use it. This is technical, but it's helpful if you can put labels to things like this. In NLP, we talk about nominalizations, and linguistically, what that means is a process that you can't put into a wheelbarrow, but like relationships or profit or value or communication. Now, these are verbs that sound like nouns, and linguistically, when they've become a nominalization, that's right. It sounds like a thing, but you can't put it in a wheelbarrow. That's classically how you're taught in NLP to start to decipher these in our world and in our language and in our communication. When you start to notice that nominalizations, well, they could be used not for your good, or again, you could use them like I often say with language, you can use nominalizations in a way that isn't for your good. And if you're using it unconsciously, you don't know that you're, in some sense harming yourself, because you're robbing yourself of value. What exactly do I mean by this? Or how can you get value? Well, out of anything. And like I said, this metaphor, it spans far beyond the context I'm putting it into. Although if you get the essence of it, it can enrich things, it can make things easier, and it can just put a smile on your face, because you get to be at cause again, don't you? So I'm hearkening back to one of the 5 major pillars now. Because to be at cause is to take responsibility for everything in your universe. And when it comes to value, whose responsibility is it to get value out of anything? It's yours. And that can be an inconvenient truth at times. Although, again, if I can weigh up an inconvenient truth versus just taking my power back and becoming empowered rapidly and intuitively, I know what I'm going to choose every day of the week. So this is a really crude way of giving you a metaphor that I came up with in a dream recently, and I thought this is great because I'd heard it another way, although now we get to apply it differently in this format. Because a lot of you can relate to this, I'm sure. Have you ever bought a gym membership? And if you have, you may have consistently gone to the gym for a period. You may have dropped off, and maybe you don't fit into either one of those categories wholly and completely. But let's just have a look at the not going to the gym category for a moment. If you did buy a gym membership at one point in time and you stopped going, whose responsibility is it to get value out of that gym membership? That's right. It is yours. And you might be thinking, what is he talking about? Of course it's mine. Here's the thing though. I work with a lot of people across a lot of contexts to achieve their goals, or, training people to be their best in the context of, NLP and emotional intelligence and psychotherapy and all that wonderful stuff. And it's rather interesting to see at times where people's default is around that responsibility for value. It would be the equivalent of, enrolling in a uni degree and not turning up to classes or lectures or tutorials, and you'll get the terminology straight, and not rocking up to exams and then not passing. And then whinging that, I didn't get any value out of it. That they didn't provide me any value at all. And, I'm not saying that you are doing this in your life specifically in any context. Although what I'm inviting you to do is start to think about maybe where is it that you potentially could be doing that? Because if you can find a target on or in this realm, then you can really save yourself a lot of energy and no longer rob yourself of value. Take the power back by taking responsibility and getting that value, going to that quote unquote gym, picking up that game or that book and playing it or reading it. Or, perhaps if you've got a program that you bought, you had wonderful intentions to learn, like a video editing software or an audio editing software, or, insert the blank here of that wonderful tool or exercise or activity, or just go ahead and rinse that value out of it. Get more value than you ever could have imagined you could have, and look back and go, wow, that was great value. Now that was valuable. And doesn't that feel better? Well, it can, This is, at this stage, MatthewTweedyHypnosis.com.au, Matthew Tweedy on Instagram, Matthew Tweedy Hypnosis, I should say, on Instagram, on Facebook, The Power of Practice podcast. Did I leave a T out? The Power of Practice podcast. Subscribe. And, go ahead and review too. Matthew Tweedy saying, ciao for now. Keep growing and evolving.